Morsels, Twisted Tales of Life and Death, Volume 1, Greenlight, by Kelvin Wade. He ordered another gin and tonic. He looked at his watch. The guy had said 5, and it was 5:15. He was wearing the rose on his lapel, just like the guy had said to on the phone. Now where was he? He slipped another cigarette out of the pack of Benson and Hedges on the table and lit it. The waitress arrived with his second drink. How did he get into this position? It happened so fast. His father had built that hardware store with his bare hands. The old man had literally tiled the place and ran the electrical. And he'd worked around the clock, giving that extra service, that extra touch. Expanded to 2 other stores with loyal customers. He remembered the jingle his father had on the radio when he was a kid. Sinks clogged up, you need a part, O. Henry's, hardware with a heart. When his old man passed the stores on to him, he did well in the beginning. The stores were performing better than they ever had. Then there was that little recession at the beginning of the 90s. Then Home Depot had to open up in town. The stress of trying to compete with a national chain with deep pockets had sent him to Las Vegas to blow off steam. He got addicted to blowing off steam at the blackjack and craps tables. Then came the loans against the businesses. All the while he's trying to hold together a family, a wife and 3 kids. He was in too deep. He took a big swallow of his drink and a drag off the cigarette. He looked up and a man was standing beside his table. The heavy-set man was well-dressed in a dark tailored suit. His beard was thick, the rims of his glasses heavy. His eyes were the most piercing blue. The heavy man extended a hand. "Sorry I'm late. I had to watch you for a while, make sure no one was with you," the man said, in a voice that sounded like heavy furniture being moved around a room. "I'm alone. Pleased to meet you. I'm Harry O'Henry. I own O'Henry's heart." The heavy man shook his hand and then raised it to halt his speech. "I don't need to know your name or who you are. I'm not giving you my name. This isn't how I look," the heavy man intoned. He flagged the waitress down and ordered a lager and asked for breadsticks. O'Henry took another drag on his cigarette and a swallow of his drink. He exhaled to his right. "This is cloak and dagger stuff. I've never done anything like this. How do you know I'm not wearing a wire?" O'Henry asked. "I already scanned you with an RF detector when I came in. You're clean," the heavy man said. O'Henry finished his drink. "And how do I know you're not wearing a wire?" The heavy man reached into his suit pocket and pulled out a big brown cigar. He snipped the end with a little blade and lit up the stogie. The waitress arrived with his lager and the breadsticks. He took a sip of his brew and bit a breadstick, chewed, and swallowed. "You don't. That's up to you. I'm not in charge of your precautions. When do you need this done?" O'Henry shifted in his seat. He swallowed hard. His eyes left the heavy-set man and drifted to a family of 4 having dinner 3 tables over. The 2 small children were eating plates of spaghetti with sauce all over their faces. The father was sipping a glass of red wine. The wife, a redhead with pendulous breasts, was eating a salad and a dish of linguine con vongole. They didn't seem to have a care in the world. Family night. "It's got to be tomorrow, by 2 p.m. Not tonight, but tomorrow. From the time I get up till 2 p.m., okay? Not at my house, okay? I got to be away from the house. I don't want to see it coming," O'Henry said, taking a nervous drag off his cigarette. He reached into his jacket pocket and produced a thick envelope. He slid it across the table. "Pick up the envelope. You give me that outside. I leave first. You leave 5 minutes later. You hand me the envelope outside. It has to all be there." "It is." The heavy man drank long from his lager and then pulled hard on his cigar. He left a funky cloud hanging between them. "The phone number you use to contact me will be good from now until tomorrow. If you change your mind, you forfeit 50%. You have to give the operator your name and use the code word—" "Wait," O'Henry interrupted him. "I'm not going to change my mind. Do you know how hard this is to do something like this? I've been thinking about all kinds of other scenarios and nothing else works. This is hard. I'm not going to change my mind. I don't need any code word." The heavy man just stared at O'Henry for a minute. He puffed on his cigar and then ground it out in the glass ashtray on the table. You want a green light, then? Nothing stops a green light, the heavy man said, staring into Henry's eyes with those piercing blue eyes. Then that's what I want. Tell me, do you do it? How is it done? No, I don't do it. I don't know who does it, and I don't know how. It gets done. For all I know, he's in this restaurant. Are you sure you don't want a code word? A surrender word? Sometimes fellows get scared when they face their own mortality. Oh, Henry ground out the cigarette next to the cigar. My house will be paid for by insurance. My kids will have somewhere to stay. I've got $1 million policy. It'll pay off double for a homicide. It's the only thing in my life I haven't screwed up. The heavy man finished a couple more breadsticks and drained his glass. He left the 20 on the table. We're all done here. Harry couldn't sleep that night. He laid awake just staring at his wife as she slept. She never looked more beautiful. She was strawberry blonde, maybe 20 pounds overweight, with bags under her eyes, but to him she was a goddess, a vision. Every so often he'd lean over just to smell her hair. Herbal essences, totally twisted conditioner, and vanilla fields perfume, mixed with an earthy scent, made up the smell of his wife. He slipped out of bed and into the bathroom to sob. God, how I wanted to grow old with you, he thought to himself, biting his thumb in the darkness. He tiptoed down the hall and looked in at his girls. Amanda, 6, and Pearl, 11, were sleeping on their backs, their room a pink explosion of Barbie excess. He slid down the hall to his 16-year-old daughter Carrie's room. He peeked in. Her light was on, and she was whispering on her cell phone. Carrie, it's 3 a.m, he whispered. She said, gotta go, and hung up. He walked in and sat down on the bed. This what you do every night? Stay up and talk to people on the phone? Sometimes, when I can't sleep, I call Jackie. She's an insomniac, she whispered. He smoothed her hair with his hand and marveled at how much she resembled her mother. How long you and Jackie been friends now? 10 years? 12. She's a good friend. I'm glad you could lean on her. Good girl. You know I love you, right? You okay, Dad? Yeah. Everything's gonna be fine. You get some sleep. In the morning, he took an extra long shower with hot water. The heat helped work out the knots in his back. The clouds of steam helped relax him. He'd spent most of the night crying, but he knew he was doing the right thing. The children would live a good life. It was all he could hope to give them. Not a life of shame as he liquidated his stores and the bank repossessed the house. They didn't deserve that. This way they could keep the family home and have enough left over for a new start. Maybe in a few years the girls would have a stepfather, some kind-hearted man who could help them grow into smart, independent, well-adjusted women. He had to hope for the best. He turned off the water and stepped out of the shower. The sound of his wife screaming shook him from head to foot. He could hear his daughter scream, too, louder than she'd ever screamed. Oh, my God, they're going to do it here. I told them not at the house, not in front of the kids. Harry wrapped a towel around his waist and grabbed a straight razor off the counter. He flew out of the bathroom in time to hear his wife screaming his name. His right toes caught the side of the door jamb and he went sprawling into the hallway, the straight razor spinning down the hallway on the shiny wood floor. He picked himself up, tied the towel tight, scooped up the razor, and dripping water behind him, turned the corner and flew down the stairs. He could hear his youngest girl screaming now, too. His heart pumped and his toes burned from the fall, but he had to get to them. This wasn't the deal. This wasn't part of the deal. He made it to the bottom of the stairs and ran right into his wife, who threw her arms around him. They collided with such force that once again the straight razor was knocked out of his hand. Carrie picked it up. His wife was kissing him, and he was busy looking past her at his 2 youngest girls bouncing up and down in the living room holding each other's hands. He saw no goons and no guns, no masked intruders. His wife stopped kissing him. We won, Harry! We won! Daddy, we won! Won? Won what? Harry asked, out of breath, his back and knees aching, his heart thudding in his chest. The lottery! His wife screamed, waving the ticket in front of him. Harry, get the paper! His daughter showed him the numbers in the morning paper. Sure enough, they matched the ticket. They matched the ticket in his wife's hand. All 6 numbers and the mega number. His eyes couldn't focus on the monetary figure. Perhaps they printed it too small. He caught his breath and looked again, squinting. $23 million. He let out a whoop and leaped into the air and pumped his fist. He started dancing a dance his girls would have normally been embarrassed to see him do, but now they didn't care. His girls were dancing around him. Carrie was dancing, waving the straight razor above her head. It hit him slowly, like remembering an unpleasant dream. It crawled into his consciousness and fell over his psyche like internal rain. The whole thing was cosmically absurd. He swallowed hard but tried to maintain his smile. No school for anyone today. We're going to go out for breakfast and then straight down to the lottery headquarters. Nobody calls anyone. No friends, no relatives, okay? That means no texts, Carrie. Let me go get dressed, Harry said, running up the stairs. He made it into the master bedroom and closed the door. He picked up his cell phone and dialed the number he'd called to arrange the meeting with the heavyset man. A woman's voice answered. Eliminations, may I help you? Yeah, my name is Harry O'Henry. I arranged a job for today, but I don't need it. Okay, so call it off. All right, call it off. Okay, do you have a code word? A what? Oh, they didn't give me one, but call it off, okay? He heard typing on the other end. Sir, you've been greenlighted. Harry swallowed hard. He laughed nervously. Yeah, I know. I didn't know what I was doing. Circumstances have changed. I don't need it. Just call it off. Sir, we can't call off green lights. This should have been explained, and I only have 10 seconds left for this call. Listen, you have to. You got it. Call it off. Look, tell you what, you can keep the money. Keep it all. Just call it off. Give me a confirmation that it's called off. Goodbye, sir. Harry called back but got a fast, busy signal. Shit, shit, shit. He dressed quickly. He opened the closet, reached up on the top shelf, and retrieved the metal box. He did the combination, opened the box, and pulled out a .38 revolver. He loaded it and shoved it in his pants pocket. He walked nervously down the stairs. He looked at his watch, 8:25 a.m. Honey, let's take separate cars, okay? He suggested. What? Why? I need to go by the main store on the way back. I'm riding with Daddy, Amanda called. Me too, Pearl shouted. No. Everyone rides with Mommy. Daddy wants to ride alone. His wife slid up against him and whispered, What's going on? Is everything all right? I mean, we're millionaires. Millionaires, Harry. Everything is fine. I'll explain tonight, okay? Okay? Trust me. Now let's go to Original Pancake House. The drive to the restaurant had been nerve-wracking. Harry had taken a different route than his family. His wife had called him on the cell phone, but he didn't answer. He had to keep his eyes peeled for trouble. At the restaurant, he chose a table in the back of the restaurant with his back against the wall. He refused to eat a thing. A tall man in a San Francisco Giants jacket sat 2 tables away, eyeing the family. Harry noticed him right away. He ate an apple pancake, Dutch baby, bacon, and a spinach and pepper jack cheese omelet. Harry thought if the guy handled a gun like he handled a fork, they're done for. He watched the man drink 6 cups of coffee and then rise to go to the bathroom. Harry slowly reached for the pistol in his pocket. The man continued on to the bathroom, stopping to look back at the family before he went in. Harry took the opportunity to hustle his family out of the restaurant at that point. They left for the lottery headquarters downtown. Harry decided to take the freeway. Surface Street seemed like too big of a risk. He could be chased and cornered or caught at a traffic light. There were just too many things that could go wrong. On the freeway, if a car got too close behind him, he changed lanes. He decided to make himself a moving target. He parked on the opposite side of the building than his family. He phoned his wife and told them to go on in, that he would meet them inside. As he exited his SUV, a man stood about 15 feet behind him. The man wore dilapidated shoes, wrinkled dirty jeans, and a worn blue jacket. His face sported a scraggy beard and was lined with wrinkles. When he spoke, he was missing his upper teeth. Hey, pal, you got any spare change? The man called. Harry was so startled he drew the pistol and aimed it at the man. The man took a step backwards. I don't want no trouble. the man called out and took 2 more steps back, his hands trembling. The front of the man's jeans darkened. He was urinating. Harry shoved the gun back in his pocket, convinced this was just a homeless man. He ran into the lottery building. A burly security guard stopped him from running. Lottery headquarters was on the 3rd floor. Harry stepped into the elevator. He punched a button for the 3rd floor. A young black youth wearing black jeans, a black coat, and black beanie began jogging toward the elevator. "Yo, hold up!" Harry pressed the closed door button and sank to the back of the elevator as the doors closed before the young man could reach it. "You punk!" he heard the guy yell. In the lottery headquarters office, Harry's family was seated in chairs. There were 4 lottery officials and a security guard in the office. Harry sat down in an empty chair next to his wife. A balding man with a bushy mustache shook his hand. "As I was telling your family, the ticket has been verified as authentic. 1 other winning ticket has been sold, so you and your wife will be receiving a total of $11.5 million before federal and state taxes. This will be paid out in 20 annual installments." Harry put an arm around his wife and kissed her cheek. "When will we receive the first check?" he asked. "We will be presenting you with a large promotional check right away. We will invite the news media to cover the event. That will take place within the hour. You will receive a direct deposit of the first installment within 6 weeks." "This is unbelievable," his wife sighed. Harry thought about the money. It was the cure to their ills. It was amazing how life worked out. He thought about taking the family on a vacation, but he also thought about Las Vegas. Once he'd squared his debts, it was high roller time. He'd be treated like one of the big shots. Limo, comp suite, comp meals, VIP all the way. He'd even take the family. He was jolted out of his fantasy by a knock at the door. It was the security guard who whispered something to the other security guard in the room. The guard in the room turned towards Harry. "Sir, can you accompany my colleague downstairs for a moment?" Harry rose from the chair slowly, his hands trembling. "What is it?" his wife asked. "Yeah, Dad, what's up?" Harry joined in. "There is just a misunderstanding that needs to be cleared up." "An altercation in the parking lot?" "Oh, yes," Harry said, relieved. "A homeless guy. He was aggressively panhandling, and we got into it." "If we could just clear this up," the new security guard offered. "Oh, yeah. Kids, I'll be right back." The ride down in the elevator with the security guard seemed like it took forever. Harry expected the guard to draw his weapon at any moment. He'd have to be faster on the draw. But Harry hadn't fired his weapon in 6 years. He used to faithfully go to the range with Lenny Jacobson. They'd target shoot and then go out for beers afterwards. But ever since Lenny had his first kid, they hadn't been out to the range. The security guard glanced at Harry, and it made Harry move slowly away from him. Who knew how big this eliminations outfit was? His body trembled, and he eyeballed the security guard closely. "I called it off," he mumbled. "Excuse me?" the security guard asked. They reached the 1st floor, and the doors slid open. Across the lobby stood the homeless man and a police officer. "That's the dude! He went crazy on me. Like Rambo, Dirty Harry, pulled out his piece. Dude's psycho!" The homeless man ranted and pointed while positioning himself behind the cop. The police officer had unsnapped his gun holster and was pointing at Harry. "Sir, up against the wall," the cop ordered. "This is a big misunderstanding. I can explain everything," Harry offered. "Front right pocket. Gun!" the cop shouted. There was a scream in the lobby. Some woman. The homeless man hit the floor. The security guard had spun Harry to the floor and pulled the gun out of his pocket. Harry could feel 2 knees in his back as his hands were harshly cuffed. The room appeared to be spinning. Voices appeared muted and distant. Any moment he expected the muzzle of a gun to be pressed against the back of his head and his life ended. His pulse quickened and his heart pumped rapidly. "My name is Harry O'Henry. I own O'Henry Hardware Stores. I can explain everything," he was repeating. As the cop and security guard lifted the now handcuffed Harry to his feet, Harry looked around at the startled people on the floor. It was an absurd scene. He was the victim, yet they were treating him as if he were a criminal. He did feel bad seeing a woman and her small child huddled on the floor, and there was the homeless man sprawled on the floor, muttering into a cell phone. Down at the station, he was fingerprinted, photographed, and booked. He was led into a small room with a metal table that was bolted to the floor. He was handcuffed to a metal ring on the side of the table as he sat in a wood chair. The room had no windows, not even the one-way glass he'd expected from watching so many cop shows. The walls held a lot of graffiti, most of it pretty profane. "What a day," he said to no one in particular. On the ride over to the police department, he was sure a Hummer would ram the car and a hitman would kill him and the cop. That's the way it's done in the movies, he thought. He didn't know what to expect. The security guard told him that he would explain the situation to his wife and kids, and he hated that. A day that was supposed to be their happiest day as a family would be marred by his arrest of these bizarre charges. How would he explain it all to them? The door opened and a short man wearing brown slacks, a white shirt, and a loosened tie entered. His badge was clipped to his waist. He wore a shoulder holster, but there was no gun in it. He carried a folder and a mini cassette recorder. He pulled up a chair across from Harry. "I'm Detective Wilson. Before we get started, can I get you anything?" "I'd like a smoke." "Well, I don't smoke. I don't have any cigarettes. There's no smoking in here anyway. You want a coffee, soda? You hungry?" "I am really hungry. I haven't eaten today." The cop left the room for a few moments and came back with a cold can of Coca-Cola and a tuna sandwich wrapped in plastic. He sat down and turned on the recorder. "I'm Detective Wilson. It's 12:15. Before we get started, I'm going to remind you that you have the right to remain silent. Everything you say can be held against you. You have a right to counsel and to have counsel present during questioning. If you cannot afford counsel, it will be provided to you by the state. Do you understand these rights?" Yeah. Look, this is going to sound nuts. I own some hardware stores, and we've fallen on hard times. I also have some gambling debts. I've been under a lot of pressure. So I found this company on Craigslist called Eliminations. They're hitmen. Harry was breathing heavily, but he had to get this out. He had to get this off his chest. He opened the Coke with a little pop and swigged some down. "They represented themselves as contract killers?" Wilson asked. "Yes. We set up a meeting for 5 o'clock at Vittorio's restaurant yesterday. I met with this guy, heavy bastard, beard, wouldn't give me his name. You could check with the waitstaff at Vittorio's and see if anyone remembers him. He ordered a lager and some pretzels. What I had in mind was I wanted them to kill me. I've got insurance policies that would have helped my family out. I was ready to do that. I was that distraught. I paid the guy $5,000. "What does this have to do with the homeless man you allegedly held at gunpoint?" the cop asked. I'm getting to it," Harry said, gulping the Coke. "I told them I wanted it done today. I didn't know how they'd do it. But my wife, as crazy as this sounds, my wife won the lottery this morning. We're rich. I don't have financial problems anymore. But I couldn't call it off. They wouldn't call it off. So I've been panicked all morning. I took my gun to protect myself. And when I saw the homeless guy, I freaked. I thought it was them." The cop sat back in his chair. "How does this help you, Mr. O'Henry? Not only do you still have the problem of brandishing the weapon at the homeless guy, you're telling me that you conspired to commit insurance fraud?" Harry hadn't thought about that. He finished the drink and ran his hand through his hair. "Look, nothing's happened. I know I scared the homeless guy. Fine, charge me. I just want to call off the hit. That's all I'm concerned about at this point." Harry tore open the plastic wrap and began eating the tuna sandwich. "Mr. O'Henry, maybe we can get together with the district attorney's office and work something out. Do you have the phone number of this Eliminations?" "It's in my cell phone. You guys took it when you booked me." "Hey, speaking of cell phones, when I was handcuffed, I saw the homeless guy talking on his cell." "So? How many homeless people have cell phones? Maybe he was in on it," Harry asked. "I'm sure the arresting officer got a statement from the guy. We'll find him and check out your story. Okay? Someone will be in to take you to a holding cell. You'll make bail." The detective shut off the recorder, gathered up the folder, and left. Harry thought about his wife and kids coming to bail him out, and it cheered him up. His wife would freak when she found out what he'd planned on doing, but he could explain it. He just didn't want the kids to find out. Once this was behind him, they'd start a new life. They had a new lease on life, a life of leisure and travel, including plenty of visits to Las Vegas. He finished half of the sandwich. He was ravenous. The door opened, and a tall black cop walked in wearing a suit and tie and holding some folders. He sat down across from Harry. Okay, Mr. O'Henry, my name is Detective Wilson, and I'm here to talk to you about your case. Harry looked him in the eye. But I already talked to a Detective Wilson. The detective looked puzzled. I'm the only Detective Wilson at this precinct. Just then Harry didn't feel so well. His stomach was in knots, and then stabbing pains. His throat seized up. It became hard to breathe. He puffed, trying to get air into his lungs. The cop across from him rose, alarmed. Mr. O'Henry? His tongue swelled in his throat. The sandwich! He gasped. Harry toppled to the floor, his hands still cuffed to the table. The end. I hope you enjoyed Greenlight from Morsels, Twisted Tales of Life and Death, Volume 1.